Hey there, Cowboys fans. Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Brett Scott. That guy over there is Tom Downey. Tom, 12 news and rumors today?
Yep, and defensive free agent targets.
25 guys to watch for on the free agent market that the Cowboys could sign this coming offseason. Of course, today's episode is brought to you by The Guild. Visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS for 15% off your stay in Austin, Texas, right here in Dallas, Texas. Nashville, maybe? How about Miami? Sound good? South Beach?
If you're going to come visit us in Dallas for the draft, there you go.
Sounds perfect. Come visit us. Let us know when you come. Use that stayguild.com promo, ChatSports, 15% off your stay when you come visit us for the NFL Draft. All right, Tom, let's get into the news and rumors roundup of the day. We talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. Randy Gregory, is he coming back?
Probably not. Look, Randy Gregory, and I think correctly so, is getting his life in order right now. He's not really all that focused on returning to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, there's a chance he comes back at some point, but I think overall, the mindset for Gregory, the Cowboys, and Cowboys fans is, hey, if he comes back, cool, but let's not ever bank or assume that Gregory will be coming back, because that's how you get yourself in trouble. You operate next year like, oh, we're going to have Gregory back, but he'll be another pass rush option, and then he doesn't come back, and then you're down an area where you need more help because you banked on him coming back when he did not.
Yeah, that one's 1 star, small shred of truth, but don't expect Randy Gregory to be returning to the Dallas Cowboys anytime soon. All right, Tom, let's talk about another guy that everybody likes to talk about. How about Earl Thomas, the Seattle defensive back? Is he coming to the Cowboys?
Again, probably not. Look, Earl Thomas.
Bearer of bad news on the Cowboys Report. That's how we're starting it out today.
Yeah, that's just how I'm doing it. I did this as of late as well. Look, Earl Thomas would be great. I would love to get Earl Thomas on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sure you guys would love that as well. But this one just doesn't seem likely at all, because he seems more intent to get paid by the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Cowboys overall, Brett, I think they're just leverage. That's kind of all I think they are right now for Earl Thomas and the Seahawks. Like, there's just no real need for Earl Thomas to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go join the Cowboys. He's under contract. He wants to get one more big contract. Maybe farther down the road, Earl Thomas ends up rejoining Dallas, coming back to his home state. But I just don't think it's likely at all right now as we currently sit.
Tom, you are the bearer of bad news on the Cowboys Report, and we're just starting it off with 3 straight 1 stars here. Let's go to the next one here. Aquib Talib, will the Cowboys try and add him if the Broncos were to cut him?
Oh, they're definitely not going to trade for him, so let's ignore that as an option. The Cowboys, and frankly, most teams don't want to take on the $11 million salary that Talib has, and if the Cowboys were to do that, they've got really no other money to spend elsewhere, and why do it at cornerback? They like Chidobe Awuzie, they like Jordan Lewis, they're still kind of high on Anthony Brown, which I don't know if I really agree with, but why would you go invest all of this money in a cornerback when you're probably going to let go of Orlando Scandrick because you don't want him to stop the inhibiting of the progress of guys like Lewis and Awuzie? So at that point, like, why would you not, or why would you have any real interest in Talib? Maybe if he comes in super cheap at like a Nolan Carroll type contract, it could make some sense, but I just don't see any interest for the Cowboys' perspective in going out and putting in big money for a guy like Aquib Talib.
All right, Tom, we've been showing the stars. Let's go through our rumor meter. Here's 0 stars. Eagles Super Bowl rings. It's fake news.
We better not have to change this, Brett.
Oh, we might have to change it. It might become real news.
What are we going to change it to, though?
Get your comments in.
Does 1 star become Eagles Super Bowl rings when we think of something new for 0?
No, it's stupid. Okay. No, sorry, Tom, that's stupid.
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to think about it, and it's sad that I want the Patriots to win this weekend. Anyway, get your comments in. Let us know what 0 stars turns into in the terrible case that the Eagles win the Super Bowl this weekend. All right, 1 star, small shred of truth. 2 stars, the people are talking. Now we're getting into rumor land. It could go either way, 50-50.
Firmly in that rumor category.
Likely. All right, 3 stars, that's pretty likely. 75%, that's how we like to think about it. Yeah, it's looking like it's going to happen. And then 4 stars, it's a fact. Dez caught it. That is our rumor meter. We got a weigh-in for you here. Back to Earl Thomas and Aquib Talib. Tom, if the Cowboys were to do anything in the secondary, it's not likely to be Earl Thomas or Aquib Talib, as we said with the 1 star. Of course, we asked the question here, do you want to add either one of the 2? I think a lot of people would say yes.
I mean, if salary cap wasn't a thing, yeah, give me both of them.
Yeah,
but that's not how the NFL operates, especially Earl Thomas. He'd be my first target, but that's not how money works.
Aquib Talib seems like somebody that might be a little bit more trouble than he's worth.
Yeah, look, he always seems to find himself in some trouble. there's always something going on with Talib. There had been some rumblings that he wasn't the best locker room guy last year. He's still very talented, but at an $11 million price tag or in that range, he's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Seen a lot of questions coming through as well. We'll get to your guys' comments here in just a little bit. Let's get back to our news and rumors roundup here at number 4. The Cowboys have a new special teams coach, and that's Keith O'Quinn. Tom, tell us about him.
O'Quinn was the understudy to Rich Bisaccia. Now he takes over as the full-time special teams coach. And this just kind of makes sense to me because you lost a guy you didn't want to lose in Rich. Why not promote the guy that he had been kind of grooming and had been his understudy? That kind of mindset, I think, is good sense there for the Cowboys. You had success with the guy who left. You can promote his understudy, his assistant, to the assistant.
Assistant to the assistant, all right. Hey, more coaching turnover. The Cowboys are getting close to being done with the coaching turnover.
Very close.
But another news item here is the fact that they hired linebackers coach Ben Bloom. Tell us about him, Tom.
Bloom's had a couple different roles with the Cowboys staff. He was also the assistant to the linebackers coach in Matt Eberflus, so it's the same type of mold. Promote the guy that you had kind of waiting to take over in the event that you lost the guy you didn't want to lose, or for Eberflus, if he was promoted fully. So Bloom is fine. These are not going to be the earth-shattering additions that maybe some people wanted to see. He's no John Pagano. He went elsewhere, but in the end, this was a good hire for the Dallas Cowboys. It's not going to drastically change their outcome, but they didn't need to restart it here with these positions. You were fine to go ahead and just promote somebody else in their stead and have an understudy take over in the role that he was kind of groomed for, more or less.
So we're going to take a look at the defensive side of the ball in terms of the coaching staff. All of the key positions are now filled. Of course, Leon Lett and Greg Jackson are returning. Marinelli is returning as well. And then the new additions, Ben Bloom, Chris Richard, and Keith O'Quinn fill out that defensive coaching staff. Tom, overall thoughts now that it's filled in?
This is a really good defensive coaching staff. I still really like Rod Marinelli. We'll see how long Leon Lett hangs around there. Ben Bloom, I don't know how great he's going to be, but again, he was a lesser option in the end for the Cowboys because he's no Eberflus, and that's okay there. Richard, I love. That is the one big hire there for the Dallas Cowboys. That is a huge addition, and in theory, he could eventually take over for Marinelli as the DC. And then, of course, the offensive side here, too.
Yeah, we'll look at the offensive side of the ball here. Linehan returning. Kellen Moore in at quarterbacks coach. Gary Brown's back. Sanjay Lal, new wide receivers coach. The tight ends coach, Tom, still the open slot. And, of course, Paul Alexander, the offensive line coach. Now, Tom, there's been some rumblings around the tight end spot, but still a spot that is yet to be filled.
Mark Colombo is the only guy that we know has interviewed. And might be a couple others, but when we hear word of that, we'll update you guys. But as of right now, that's the one spot that is yet to be filled.
All right, back to our news and rumors roundup. We've got a full slide of 4-star news items for you here. Jalen Smith's drop fit. Yeah, drop foot. Drop fit? Drop foot.
Potato?
Yeah, sure. It is improving. He talked to scouts Mike Fisher this morning. It sounds like things are going pretty well for Jalen in his recovery.
This is really good news for the Cowboys. This means that the nerve is continuing to regenerate. It's not fully there yet, and then that was really going to be the process all along. It's not supposed to be fully healed by now, but he says he has more power, more flexibility. Getting that drop foot issue faded is a good thing for Cowboys and Jalen Smith because it means he's going to be closer to the guy we saw at Notre Dame, and the guy we saw at Notre Dame was a better prospect in my eyes than Reuben Foster was.
Right.
Now, the injury, of course, changed all that. We know how good Foster looked when he was on the field.
Yep.
So Smith getting healthy is huge for the Dallas Cowboys, and I think we'll know how confident Dallas is in Jalen Smith based on what they do with Anthony Hitchens. If Hitchens gets more money elsewhere and the Cowboys don't spend to sign somebody else, it means, okay, we think Jalen Smith is going to be good to go. He's going to be the linchpin of our defense going forward. That drop foot, again, is a big deal. More or less, those that don't know what it means, it kind of meant the foot wasn't able to kind of go up on its own. Like it was almost like it was always numb, and it wasn't responding properly because of the knee injury.
He said in the article that he needed to use 2 hands to put socks on in the morning. One for the sock, and the other to hold the foot in place because he couldn't do it on his own.
Basically limp.
And frankly, I mean, you look at his 2017 stats, a really impressive season from Jalen Smith, and he seemed to get better and better and better as the season went on.
Totally did.
All right, let's keep going. We're getting better and better in our news items here. A little rumor. Oh, by the way, this is the Dez Bryant portion.
This
just
is
to set expectations.
Dez Bryant portion.
Number 7 here, is Dez Bryant, quote unquote, done for?
Yeah. This one, Brett, is fake news.
Fake
Come on,
news, guys.
Jermichael Finley. Jermichael Finley, former Packers tight end, comes out and says, I think Dez is done for. That's one of my guys, but he knows I'm honest. The Cowboys are serious. They'll take away that $14 million. Like, I don't understand how you can say Dez Bryant is done for. Like, it's one thing to say that Dez Bryant is no longer the same elite receiver we saw. I think that's very fair and, frankly, very accurate. But to say a guy who had 838 yards is done for, that just doesn't make any sense. That's just not accurate.
Just anybody can say anything these days, right, Tom?
I just don't understand it. Look, I know that maybe Dez is the best fit for the Cowboys. Thank you, Brett. I'll give you a nice gesture later after we
when we get back on screen?
No, I'm not going to do that because I don't want you yelling at me after the show for being inappropriate. But Dez Bryant is not done for. He's probably not the same player he once was. That's fine. But to say he's done for, it doesn't make any sense.
All right, Tom. Well, let's go to another Dez item here. Would cutting Dez help Dallas make the Super Bowl? What do you got for me, Tom?
This is also fake news. It comes in, believe it or not, from NFL.com. Greg Rosenthal wrote this and said the one thing the Cowboys can do to help them make the next year's Super Bowl is to cut Dez Bryant, which frankly is up there. We've heard a lot of dumb things on the past year or so. This is up there. And Greg wasn't even like arguing, oh, this is going to make them better. It's like, this shows that they're not the same old Cowboys, that they're not going to be devoted to retaining players too long. They just did that with guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Tony Romo.
Is that your NFL.com voice?
It was a deep voice because I'm very smart. I have not busted out my 5th grade child voice yet because people just don't want to hear that. But I don't understand why people think this makes any sense because it doesn't. You cut Dez Bryant, you get objectively, subjectively, whatever objectively you want to use, worse. How do you replace Dez Bryant? Ooh, you save $8 million. You're not going to get a receiver of that quality. And it also pigeonholes you in to drafting a receiver early who's not as good as Dez Bryant. I get what Rosenthal's trying to say, like he doesn't want the Cowboys to be the old school of having ownership make the decisions, but like the Cowboys haven't done that. Like, they are not being run by Jerry Jones in the same way that they used to be. This is not an example of the Cowboys sticking too long with a player. It just doesn't make sense from a personnel perspective. And to say it helps them get to the Super Bowl is just dumb and wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it's
we made the argument that last week that cutting Dez is not in the best interest of the Dallas Cowboys for 2018 season. Beyond that, it could make sense. But if the Cowboys think they can still win in 2018 and make the playoffs, they need to do it with Dez Bryant. Now, we would come up to the next Dez item here, and that should Dez take a pay cut. And now that might be a conversation worth having.
I think it is a conversation worth having, and that's why we're going to go ahead and give this one 3 stars because it does make some sense that Dez Bryant should make a pay cut. Drew Pearson, OG88, is the one pushing forward here. Pearson says if he can just put his ego aside a little bit and realize that playing, about $18 million, that he'll take that. He should take that. He'll still be effective and up there among the salaries for wide receivers. I'm only giving $8 million. Excuse me. I'm only giving this one 3 stars though, Brett, because it makes sense for the Cowboys. If Dez wants to be a team first player, yeah, he should probably also do this. But here's the thing, like from a perspective of only Dez, why should he take a pay cut?
Why should he take a pay cut?
Like,
I agree.
Like, you sign the contract, pay me what I get paid, or cut me and we'll negotiate a little bit. Like, it's, from Dez's perspective, he's right to not want to take a pay cut.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if the Cowboys want him to take a pay cut, then Dez should force the Cowboys to cut him, and he should go and see what he could get in the market. Now, he might not get a good answer on one that he likes, but if that's the stance that you're going to take, that's the game of chicken that you'd have to play, the game of poker, if you will.
And Pearson, this is the part I disagree with him on. He said he shouldn't be worrying about a pay cut because the key to his contract is the $45 million guaranteed bonus. And I firmly disagree with that because, no, you also sign a contract that gives you a base salary. Like, it's not just about the guaranteed money. That's what matters in the most in the end. But I don't think it's fair for other people to say, hey, Dez, you should take a pay cut. It's one thing for the team to do it or for us to say maybe it makes some sense, but saying that he shouldn't worry about it, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you signed your contract. We so often say it's okay for the team to say we're not going to pay you as much for the receiver to say, no, pay me as much, I disagree with that. At times, we're a little too skewed to saying, oh, the team is always what matters more. Like, this is Dez's money. Like, let's allow him to make his money in the end there.
Seeing a lot of comments flowing through. Appreciate you guys joining us on today's Cowboys Report right here on Dallas Cowboys by Chat Sports. Like the page if you don't already. You'll be here with us every week on the Cowboys Report. And Tom's got 2 mini Cowboys Reports on Sunday and Tuesday as well. James says, yes, 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 cut Dez. Victor, this one made me laugh a little bit. No production, pay us.
I would like to be paid. You can pay us.
Yeah, you can pay us.
The other thing, wait, is that us or IGS?
I don't know.
I don't know what that is. Anyway,
I'm going with us.
Like, but there was production. Like, I know it's
I and Jay are close on the keyboard.
I know that the production wasn't the same that we've seen from Dez in the past, but it's also way better than anyone else on this team. Like, what? All of a sudden, you're going to make Bryce Butler and Terrence Williams the top receivers? Like, you're not going to be able to properly replace Dez with the money that you save. That's why I don't like the idea of cutting Dez Bryant. Now, we can have this discussion again next year. Maybe it makes a little bit more sense.
Timothy's saying Bryce Butler is a number 2 receiver behind Dez. Cowboys would have to re-sign him, and remember, he said he's not going to sign where he's not a starter.
Bryce Butler has yet to top 350 yards since high school. I think at a certain point you are what your production says you are. And oh, by the way, he had more drops based on the targets and catches than Dez did. We just don't remember them as well because he didn't get the same volume.
One more comment here I want to get to, and then we'll move on. William Marshall, if Ridley, the Bama wide receiver, falls past 5, could the Cowboys go up and get him?
I think if you're the Cowboys and you're looking for a trade up for a guy like Calvin Ridley, who I do like and would be a really good fit there, I think you would have to start considering it only after he falls past the Bears. Because it's going to cost too much draft capital to go up and get him in the top 5 or even in the top 10.
Do you think the Cowboys have the draft capital to do it?
I mean, they do. They could do something similar to what you saw with the Morris Claiborne move, but it's also whether or not you want to give up all that draft capital when you can get a guy who's not quite as good but can still be a good player for you in, say, round 2.
So there you go. That was the Dez portion of our News and Rumors Roundup. Let's get to a few more. How about the Cowboys hosting another Super Bowl?
This one, I actually think this one has a pretty good chance of happening, right? Because I would like to see this one happen because we've seen the Cowboys host Super Bowl and they kind of got the short of the stick because it happened to snow and it was weird because
it was weird.
And there was a lawsuit. That was the other big thing because the seating did not go very well.
Yeah, that one was weird. It had huge ice and snowstorm the week of the Super Bowl. Highway 114 heading to the airport was completely iced over.
Yeah, it was rough.
Getting out to Arlington was such a mess. But look, AT&T Cowboys Stadium is the best stadium in the league. How could it not get into the rotation for the Super Bowl?
I would be stunned if it didn't get in. Look, the first open date is 2023, and here's the big thing for the Cowboys and the NFL. You could put more fans there.
Yeah.
All right, you can put a bunch of fans in there. You know that the city is going to work well as a host site. It makes a ton of sense. I'd frankly be surprised if the Cowboys didn't host another Super Bowl unless Jerry and Roger continue to fight. But by then, you would imagine Goodell's probably actually going to be out as commissioner, which is what he said he plans on doing.
All right, number 11 here on the list, Jason Witten. He is returning for 2018. Not a surprise. Yeah. This is an easy 4 stars coming straight from the Cowboys.
Witten said he's going to come back, and he still believes in the Dallas Cowboys. This was, again, not a real surprise at all. We all kind of knew this was going to happen. But Witten mentioned it again. We thought it was worth mentioning again. Yeah. He is going to turn 36. I don't know how much longer he actually has left as an NFL tight end, especially as a starter. But his contract is very friendly to the Dallas Cowboys. There's no more guaranteed money left, so it's $6.5 million each year he wants to play, which is fair money for Jason Witten. And once he decides to retire, he just has to wait until he's a Hall of Famer, and boom, done. There we go.
I mean,
he should be first ballot.
Well, duh. And the fact, I mean, he had a good season in 2017. He was still a very reliable receiver for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott.
He's not peak Dak or peak Jason anymore.
No, of course not. But he's still your guy. And I mean, he was out there on the field doing everything and more than James Hanna ever would. So Jason Witten, certainly the GOAT. And if you caught the Cowboys Report on Tuesday, Tom did name him as the Cowboys' #1 receiver of all time. Tom, you are consistent in that you have kept that going. All right, one more news/rumor to go through here. Are the Cowboys the best fit for Sammy Watkins?
So,
I love this one to end on here, Tom.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, and if only that had come out last week, it would have been perfect if we went to offensive free agents. But This coming in from Pro Football Focus. They released their free agency guide, and I got some real question marks on their guide because I don't hate the fit of Sammy Watkins and the Dallas Cowboys, because in a bubble, I would love to get Sammy Watkins and the Dallas Cowboys, but it's only 1 star because I don't see the Rams letting him go. But most importantly, the PFF's projections for money just made no sense. And this was kind of true as they got beyond some of their, I think what they did was they based it off of grade and production, which we know isn't the best route to go for a guy like Sammy Watkins, who didn't have the best production, didn't have the best grade, even though he scored a lot and drew a bunch of attention. So they projected him at $2.5 to $3 million guaranteed per year. Now that's not total salary, that's just guaranteed, but for the most part, it comes in at 50 to 60% unless you have a different type of contract there. So with this one, let's just say 50%. That means we're looking at about $6 million per year for Sammy Watkins.
Right.
That's Travis Benjamin money. Sammy Watkins is not getting Travis Benjamin money. You can go ahead and double that, and that's why it doesn't make any sense.
We use PFF to help to help go through certain position units.
And look, PFF in the end is a nice tool in the process of evaluating different things and the way to go about and finding, some areas, maybe offensive line, defensive line, that doesn't always pop out quite as much on tape. And it is a subjective grading. I looked at the Bleacher Report NFL 1000. It was different as well than what we saw from the PFF grades. So PFF is a nice tool, but it is not the be-all, end-all. And I don't think Sammy Watkins on that end really makes sense as a $2.5 to $3 million annual guarantee. He's going to get more money, and I know they kind of plugged it into their spreadsheet and said, okay, here's his grade, here's his production, we'll compare to other players, here's what he's going to get. Spotrac had something similar in the end, but that's all numbers based. It doesn't really factor in how teams are going to view Sammy Watkins, and we saw what the Rams gave up for Sammy Watkins. So it'd be fun if the Cowboys could get Sammy Watkins at like $6 million a year. I'd do it in a heartbeat. But here's the thing. He's going to get way more on the open market, so that's why it's only 1 star. It just doesn't make enough sense on that end.
All right, that's our Cowboys news and rumors roundup for February 1st. Tom, it is February, and that means you need to start thinking about some of your summer vacation plans. So why not stay with the Guild? Visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS for 15% off your stay. The Guild's a new concept in hospitality, headquartered in Austin, Texas. And if you're taking a trip to Austin, right here in Dallas, or Nashville and Miami, even Boston, new locations opening up this year, you need to stay with the Guild. It's luxury lodging at the best residential buildings right there in those cities. It's like a luxury Airbnb. It comes with a virtual concierge. So when you need to know which bar to hit up on 6th Street for your night out, just give them a little text. That virtual concierge will hook you up. Visit stayguild.com. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS for 15% off your stay. All right, I am Brett Scott. This is Tom Downey. Follow him on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. Tom, we've got the 25 free agent targets on defense this week.
Yes, offense last week.
25 guys that the Cowboys could be looking at in free agency this offseason. And I want to start with Ziggy Ansah.
Yeah, I like this guy. This is only an option if the Cowboys let DeMarcus Lawrence leave, which really wouldn't make any sense. Ansah had a really weird year. He had 12 sacks. You think, oh, really good production from him. 6 of them came in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And he also had a game with 3 sacks as well. So most of his production came in like 3 games, and he only kind of showed up at the end of the year, but he's got the name recognition. He's had some injuries. So I think Ansah, in what is kind of a down pass rushing class in terms of the free agency, he's going to get paid a little bit. It's also why the Cowboys cannot let DeMarcus Lawrence leave, because someone's going to throw a bunch of money at him. That's why you franchise tag him at the very least.
You start us on the defensive line, Tom. Let's go to Star Lutulele, the Panthers DT.
Star did not play as well as he's had in the past. He had a bit of a down year. He is more of a run stuffer. That's going to be the theme here for the most part on the defensive line. With David Irving and Malik Collins, you don't really need to spend big money on a 3 technical, though there are some guys that make some sense there. But I think one technique is where the Cowboys are going to focus their attention this offseason. I think Starr makes some sense there. I don't really know what his price tag is going to be. He could try and take a one-year deal and rehab his stock, and if that's the case, he does make some sense for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, here's a guy that's been linked to the Cowboys in trade talks a few years ago when he was with the Jets. How about Sheldon Richardson?
Well, we know the Cowboys like him. Remember back in 2016, they almost traded for him, and then Stephen Jones says, we can't overpay for something even though you might want him. They didn't think the value was right for Richardson. They had some talks this year as well when the Jets flipped him to the Seahawks for a second-round pick and wide receiver Jermaine Kearse. Again, a little too pricey for me for a guy who might end up being just a one-year rental. I like Richardson a lot. I think he'd be a great fit as a 3 technique, which he didn't always play at times for Seattle and the Jets, but he brings a little bit more pass rushing value, even though the stats don't always show it to you. The edge guys for Seattle got a little bit more of the sacks than Richardson did, but he's a very talented player. He'd be a good fit on the Cowboys defense, would fit in that Deacon defense when they go to that 3-down lineman look and have 2 linebackers, and it's almost their dime package with 3 down linemen over the nose guard. But I think he might be too expensive.
All right, here's another guy that'd probably be too expensive. Falcons, Dontari Poe. Of course, the Falcons signed him away from the Chiefs last season. Free agent yet again.
Poe is exactly what the Cowboys need right now as a run-clogging nose guard. He didn't grade that well on Pro Football Focus, graded a little bit better on Bleacher Report. Didn't quite impact the game that you would have liked to have seen him have with the Chiefs. Had maybe a bit of a down year.
Yeah.
But we know who Dontari Poe is. He's going to stop the run, and he's going to do a good job at it. So I am fine with bringing on Poe. I think he wants a big, fat, long-term contract. I don't want Dallas to do that at defensive tackle and free agency. But if he wants to sign another 1-year, $6, $7, $8, $9 million deal, I think it might be worth doing, knowing that that's kind of going to be your only big free agent acquisition.
So, I mean, Tom, we talk about these guys, but you're a big proponent of Vita Vea,
the
Washington defensive tackle.
So
if the Cowboys were able to draft him, which of course timing-wise, you'd have to do one before the other.
Yeah.
Are these guys then off the table?
Yeah, and I think if the Cowboys are committed to going DT early, which I don't think they're going to pigeonhole themselves in doing quite yet, that's when it becomes Poe's off the table, Logan's off the table, some of these other guys are off the board. But you could see the Cowboys add one of these guys and still draft somebody later on in the draft and not spend a high priority pick on a nose guard. Now, I am very curious to see what Dallas does with nose guard because Rod Marinelli doesn't value nose guards that highly, but he's not going to be here forever. So if you see the Cowboys add a big-name nose guard to spend a high pick, that means Marinelli didn't get his way, and the Cowboys are looking beyond him going forward.
All right, you just briefly mentioned this guy, Benny Logan. That's all right. Benny Logan, the Chief.
He came over from the Eagles, and I was kind of surprised he got a very similar contract to Dontari Poe because I'm like, ooh, well, Poe is better than Logan. Logan was okay this year. He is not going to be a guy that gets sacks for you. That's not who he is. He had 1.5, but he is a run stuffer through and through. He would kind of, I think, be more of a 2-down lineman for the Dallas Cowboys. I wouldn't mind adding him, but I think the price might be a little high for a guy that, as far as I'm concerned, is only going to bring you plays on 1st and 2nd down.
All right, one more here on the defensive line, and that's the Raiders' man, Justin Ellis.
All depends on who you evaluate. PFF had him as the 45th defensive lineman. Bleacher Report in their NFL 1000 series gave him 99.
Where does Tom Downey have him? That's what I care about.
Tom Downey kind of has a little bit closer to 45. I'd say he's kind of more in that 50-60 range. Justin Ellis is not going to be a pass rusher, but I like him more than maybe Logan and Poe because he's going to be cheaper. If you're the Cowboys, I don't think you want to spend $10 million on a nose guard. I would rather draft one or get someone a little bit cheaper like Justin Ellis, knowing that the production's not going to be the same, but you can bring him on for a 1 or 2 year deal, draft somebody, try and develop them, and then let Ellis leave. So if the Cowboys are trying to go cheap at nose guard, I think somebody like Ellis makes some sense.
All right, we're going through 25 players on the defensive side of the ball that the Cowboys could look at this offseason in free agency. Let's move to the linebacker spot. And how about Navarro Bowman? He goes over to the Raiders and just was a monster for them late in the season.
I mean, he'd be great. Like, I would love to bring in Bowman. There are some injury concerns in his past, but we know how talented Bowman is. He racked up all the tackles for Oakland because they had no other linebacker help. Dallas tried to sign him. They wanted to bring him in because Hitchens was hurt, Sean Lee was banged up, Jalen Smith was not 100% and still is not 100%. But in the end, Brett, as much as I would love to get Bowman, I think he's going to be too pricey. I have concerns that Anthony Hitchens will price himself out of the Dallas Cowboys range. Navarro Bowman will be out of the Cowboys range, so he would be awesome to get, but I don't know if the money makes sense.
All right, let's go to another guy. How about a former Redskin, Zach Brown?
Brown is a fascinating player because he hasn't gotten the big contract he wanted. He's had 2 straight years of having a bunch of tackles and racking them up, but he hasn't got that long-term.
Kind of under the radar nationally,
yeah,
too.
he is. And he's a very talented linebacker, and you know that the tackles are there. He's a really good linebacker, but he wants that big long-term deal, and no one's given it to him yet. And the Redskins might not, because they gave one to Mason Foster. So Brown is back where he is again, trying to get big money, and might end up getting kind of the short end of the stick. But with Brown, I think Dallas would like him, especially what his contract was this year, which is like $3 million.
Yeah.
But Brown is going to look at Dallas and go, you got Smith and Lee, why would I take part-time role when I can get starting role somewhere else? And that's kind of why I don't think it makes too much sense.
Where have we heard this narrative about long-term contracts in Redskins?
All over the place.
Exactly. And, well, they made a move this week to get Alex Smith. So
which, by the way,
that gets rid of the Kirk Cousins thing.
It helps the Cowboys, by the way.
Yeah. We'll take Alex Smith. Cowboys manhandled the Chiefs and Alex Smith
and they
this
got
year.
rid of Kendall Fuller.
Yeah.
Oh, Redskins.
All right, let's go to another linebacker, Paul Posluszny.
Hey, he played with Sean Lee,
Yeah.
and he's kind of...
Well, Penn State linebacker you, right?
Yeah, it is. It is still linebacker here, though it's kind of maybe not quite the same anymore. Haven't quite turned out those guys like they used to do. Posluszny, I don't know if he's going to be back with the Jaguars because he kind of became the third linebacker because Telvin Smith was really good, and I also love Miles Jack as well. So maybe he'd be willing to go be kind of the third linebacker with Dallas and reunite with Sean Lee, a veteran option. He still plays at a high level. I would feel so much better if Sean Lee gets hurt, say, okay, it's okay. We got Posluszny. If Jaylon Smith gets hurt, okay, we got Posluszny. I would love to have him as depth as that number 3 linebacker, but he might be a little bit too expensive for me, and that's the main concern here with me with Posluszny. I would love to get him, but money is going to be a factor.
Yeah.
Again, folks, Cowboys got about $12 million to spend on the defensive side of the ball, not including Anthony Hitchens.
Right. But including DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yes, that factors in DeMarcus Lawrence because they're not going to let him leave.
All right, here's another Chief on the list here, Kevin Pierre-Louis.
He would have been higher until about a week ago he got arrested for marijuana possession. So
right up the Cowboys' alley.
Yeah, which maybe you don't bring in another guy with
No,
drug
let's not
issues.
do that. Come on, guys.
I like him as a special teams guy and as a backup. I think he'd fit that role pretty well, but with the marijuana possession for a, let's call him an average NFL backup, I don't know why you would want to bring that in. It's just, let's just try and stay a little bit cleaner because they've had that issue off-field stuff.
All right, let's go to Marquise Flowers.
Traded from the Bengals to the Patriots before the season started and had his best NFL year because the Patriots were decimated at linebacker. Flowers is still better as a backup, but he brings good special teams value. He's a guy that Bill Belichick loves because of that special teams ability. But in the end, I think he kind of stays with New England. I wouldn't mind bringing him on, but I still would rather. He's more of a special teams kind of a 4th linebacker. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're the Cowboys, you're trying to find a 3rd guy because you don't fully trust the 1st and 2nd guys because of past injuries.
That's putting it lightly, right, Tom?
That's a fair way of putting it.
Very fair.
Thank you.
All right, a couple more linebackers here for you guys. Kevin Minter is next up on the list.
Another former Bengal, and he didn't have the best year. He was limited because of injuries, didn't sign for that much. He would be, I think, a realistic option coming off the down year, signs a 1-year prove-it contract, plays as that 3rd linebacker, and gives the Cowboys the depth that they really, really need right now. Because without the depth, I have major concerns about linebacker because I don't want to play Damian Wilson or Kyle Wilber or Justin Durant more money. Let's go out and get somebody, and so we don't have to re-sign Justin Durant off the street again like we've done for 2 straight years.
Injuries, always a concern, though, of course. Keenan Robinson, another one that was limited this year because of injuries.
A common theme, I don't think the Cowboys, if they let Anthony Hitchens walk, are going to spend big money at linebacker unless they really don't trust Jaylon Smith, which I think that they do trust him. So Keenan Robinson is a guy that I've liked for a while. He's not a starting caliber linebacker. That's simply not who he is. But as a cheap veteran backup, I like his fit. He's a guy that if we have to play him in a pinch, I'm not going to feel that concerned about. He's no Sean Lee. He's no Jaylon Smith. But I think he has the ability there to step up if needed and be a quality option for the Cowboys as a veteran backup depth.
Those were your linebackers and 25 guys that the Cowboys could go after in free agency. One quick comment question here from Timothy. Do the boys still have Rolando McClain under contract, Tom?
So technically, yes, but he's on the suspended list, so they're not paying him. So it's kind of like an Alden Smith situation, like his contract just kind of toils and rolls over. And at this point, I don't think McClain's ever going to come back. So it's whatever. Like
Yeah. So
it is and it isn't.
Technically, yes, Timothy, but don't expect him to ever
Technically,
play
yes,
for the Cowboys
but
again.
it doesn't matter at all because it's just he's not going to come back. They're not paying him, so it's a wash on that end. Good question though.
Which of course, too bad. Another.
If he had kept his head on straight,
another career that could have been. All right,
Alabama players, don't go back to Tuscaloosa. Bad things happen.
Off the weed.
Also, yes.
All right, let's move into the secondary. Let's take a look at the Rams cornerback Tremaine Johnson.
This is a guy that I had my eye on last year because he was coming off a very good year, had the franchise tag, played pretty well under Wade Phillips. He's going to be too expensive.
Yeah.
The Cowboys sunk their capital at cornerback into young players like Chidobe Awuzie and Jordan Lewis. If this had been a year earlier, I think Johnson might have made some sense. But they've got the young players. They could move Byron Jones to corner, which we'll discuss more about later because I'm going to go on my secondary rant again, Brett, here. Because we're in the secondary. But later on, we're going to save it for the end because I already got my guy in free agency. We'll get to him. But Johnson, I think it's a year too late. He's just going to be too expensive for the Cowboys, and they don't want to invest big money at corner.
Yeah, and I think the Cowboys have, they have made their decision in the secondary. They're going back to the youth and those draft picks from last year. And I think you saw those guys really improve as the season went on.
I liked what I saw.
They got over their injuries.
I liked what I saw.
And finally just got the reps that they needed to improve as first-year NFL players. All right, let's take a look at another cornerback here, Patrick Robinson, who is still playing, Tom.
Yeah, he's still playing. He's
What the
playing
heck?
with the Eagles, which we don't like because you might have to change our graphic with 0 stars equaling Eagles Super Bowl rings. It's fake news. With Robinson, his path has connected with the Cowboys. Remember, in 2016, he nearly signed a deal. And there was actually an agreement in place, and then Robinson switched agents, and it all changed, and he ended up going with the Colts, had a bad year, went to the Eagles, and has thrived this year under Jim Schwartz as a nickel corner. He's been really a top 10 cornerback this year, but my issues with Brett, A, he's probably going to be a little pricey, and B, I don't want another nickel corner. The Cowboys have too many of them. They've played Xavier Woods there. Chidobe Awuzie can play the nickel. I still think Jordan Lewis is best there, even though he can play outside. Skandrick is best as a nickel. Anthony Brown, I think, has to play nickel. So I like the talent, but I don't want another nickel corner. The Cowboys have got to look outside if they're going to go for a cornerback.
Let's go over to Prince Amukamara, former Giant.
Great
Bear.
name.
Of course, great name. He's on the all-name team, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll just say yes.
Starting corner right there.
That's right.
With Amukamara, he has had an interesting career because he has been searching for that big money deal, and no one's given it to him because there are some inconsistency issues and there are injury issues. He's almost always hurt, so he signed a bunch of one-year prove-it deals. Hasn't really proved it. If he comes in at like 1 year $4 million, 1 year $5 million at most, I wouldn't mind it because he has that size to play outside. But I think the Cowboys will look elsewhere with Amukamara. I think he's going to try and get more guaranteed playing time elsewhere.
All right, let's keep going on our list of 25 free agents here. We're in the secondary. Let's take a look at Kyle Fuller.
I like Kyle Fuller's talent. Now, there was the injury in 2016 with the knee. Had a huge bounce-back year, by the way. 22 pass breakups, 2 INTs. He's now in line for a big, fat payday. If the Cowboys are going to throw money at a corner, this is probably who I go try and get. But with that said, Brett, there was some rumblings during the 2016 season that Fuller wasn't as hurt as he actually was and that he could have found a way to play through it, or that he had kind of quit on the team and just wasn't all that committed. He came back this year and revitalized his career, but I think that's going to be in the back of minds of NFL teams like, hey, what was going on in 2016? Like, there was some reports from Chicago, from leaks from the Bears that said, hey, Fuller's okay. Like, we're not fully sure that he's just not, half-assing it right now.
So it seems like somebody that the Patriots will pick up and win a lot with, like
there you
Martellus Bennett.
Yep.
Shoulder injury.
Exactly right.
All right, let's take a look at Bashaud Breeland.
With the Kendall Fuller trade, I think it's less likely that the Redskins let him leave. And I've seen Breeland mentioned in some other articles from other sites about he could be a fit for the Cowboys. He's inconsistent. He has a great year, and then he struggles. And then he's good, and then he struggles. So with Breeland, I don't fully trust his consistency. That's kind of been a thing dating to his college days. I think the Redskins can't afford to let him leave because they've got Josh Norman, and then they let Kendall Fuller go for reasons I don't understand. I think they'll retain Breeland, and I think either way it'd be a little bit too pricey for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Tom, let's start a chant. We want Mo. We want Mo. Okay, maybe not. But could the Cowboys bring back Morris Claiborne?
I wouldn't mind it. Like, I still like Claiborne, and we saw it in his last year with the Dallas Cowboys. He stayed healthy, and he was actually pretty good. And that was kind of the case again this year, depending on which grading service you like. Did not grade well in PFF. Bleacher Report liked what they saw. I lead more toward Bleacher Report. I still think he is a low-end number 1 if we're counting 32 guys as number 1. So I think he's a top 30 corner in the NFL. And I'd like to put him on the outside again if he stays healthy. I think he'd be a good fit with Chris Richard, but I think he doesn't want to go back to Dallas. I think he knows that, Dallas was great. We had some fun times. I couldn't stay healthy. I think he's going to go try and look elsewhere. So it'd be fun, but I don't think you'll see the Cowboys address cornerback in free agency. I think in the draft, you could see them spend another mid to late round pick.
A lot of inconsistencies amongst these other ranking services. Stay tuned for the Tom Downey ranking service soon to come on Morris Claiborne. All right, how about TJ Ward?
Ward had an interesting year. TJ Ward is not the same name brand TJ Ward we're used to seeing. Right. He is a strong safety. He didn't play that much with the Bucs, and frankly, when he did play, he wasn't all that great. I think Ward, unfortunately, is firmly on the decline. If he wants to come super cheap, sure. But I think he's going to try and get more money elsewhere, and I think in the end it's going to be, maybe there are some discussions, but both sides say, you know what, let's go different ways because Ward wants to start.
All right, a few more secondary members here to get to before we get to Tom's pick du jour, if you will, in free agency on the defensive side of the ball. It's the soup of the day. Trey Boston.
We didn't order soup. Anyway.
See a movie once in your life.
Trey Boston was kind of a tale of two halves this year. His first half of the year was not that great, but he really picked it up at the end of the year. And, ooh, look, Brett. Ready? Drink. Ball skills. 5 picks, 8 interceptions. He can play free safety. If the Cowboys aren't fully sold on Byron Jones, which we'll get to here in just a little bit, Boston could make some sense, but I think he's going to get more money elsewhere. And we've seen this time and time again with the Cowboys, Brett. They don't invest that much at safety. That's the area that they try to go a little bit cheaper at.
All right, let's hit LaMarcus Joyner next on our list.
I would love to get him, but he's going to be a little bit expensive because LaMarcus Joyner thrived this year with the Rams. Wade Phillips did not limit him to just being a nickel corner. They played him at strong safety, free safety, dime linebacker, nickel corner, and he was great in the role. So I would expect Joyner gets re-signed. But if he hits the open market and you're the Dallas Cowboys, like, hey, we got $12 million, let's throw it all at a really, really good safety, I'm down with it. In the end, I don't think the Cowboys do that, though.
Former Cowboys coach,
I would love to get him.
Former Cowboys coach Wade Phillips did such a good job with that Rams defense this year.
Did.
All right, next up on the list is Nate Allen.
This I could actually see happening because the Cowboys, as we saw with guys like Robert Blanton, don't mind going into the cheap guys. They like to bring in these guys that compete for camp bodies. And I don't think Nate Allen, at this point in his NFL career, is guaranteed a roster spot when he signs with somebody. He's older. He has some injury issues, but he'd be a decent camp body in terms of veteran depth. And if maybe you have Jeff Heath go down, the Cowboys for the most part at safety were pretty healthy, but if they have injury issues, I don't know if I trust that depth because Kevin Frazier is a good strong safety. Yep. Byron Jones, we'll talk about here in just a second. Jeff Heath, we know my thoughts on Jeff Heath at this point, Brett. And then I do like Xavier Woods, but he's played nickel corner as well. So you do maybe want some more depth here.
All right, 2 more picks in the secondary here. We're going to go to Eric Reed next.
If the Cowboys want to spend money, I am good with them spending it on Eric Reed. Eric Reed had a really good year for the San Francisco 49ers and did a little bit of everything. He was in the box. He was the deep safety. He was the strong safety. And the Cowboys this year showed they like moving their safeties around. And I think Reed is the guy that can help cover tight ends if you want to move Byron Jones to corner, which now I'll use it as my jumping off point. You got to move Byron Jones to corner. Like, please, please do it. He was drafted out of UConn as a corner free safety hybrid. His weakness is in the run game. Why are you making him into a box safety? It just doesn't make sense. And Richard, coming over for Seattle, loves long, lanky, fast corners.
Byron Jones.
That's who Byron Jones is. I think Byron Jones would thrive under Richard as a cornerback. Do that. Anthony Brown becomes your 4th corner. Lewis becomes your nickel guy. Awuzie is your other outside corner. And that is a young, really good cornerback group. And then you have Xavier Woods, I think, as the free safety, which you drafted him to be, not a nickel corner where the Cowboys played him a lot this year. Xavier Woods as your free safety, and then Jeff Heath as your strong safety, and or somebody else on this list, Brett.
Let's get to Tom's pick in the Cowboys free agency. The last guy on our 25, Kenny Vaccaro.
Make it happen. Remember, folks, the Cowboys almost traded for Vaccaro during the NFL draft. There was a very nearly agreed to trade of Kenny Vaccaro going in exchange for Orlando Scandrick. And if this had happened, I would have absolutely loved it because I am a big fan of Kendrick right now. He didn't have the same year he's had in the past because the Saints did not use him right. They lined him up as a nickel corner a lot. You want to make him into a strong safety. He is really, really good against the run. You bring him in, he is your best safety against the run. He's almost the antithesis of Byron Jones. He can stop the run. He can hold up in coverage as well. I want the Dallas Cowboys to go sign Kenny Vaccaro. He's not going to be that expensive. Make him into your strong safety, and then in a year, you can go sign Earl Thomas, and boom, Cowboys secondary solved. Byron Jones, Awuzie, Lewis, Xavier Woods as your third safety. You have Kenny Vaccaro and Earl Thomas, best secondary in the NFL. You can cut Jeff Heath. Boom. We did it. Hire me, Cowboys. We're done.
We'll have Tom's secondary graphic up next week. That was 25 free agent targets for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason. Tom, I have to cut you off. It's time to go. Lena is telling me we've got to get out.
All right, fine. But I saw people tweeted me about Kenny Vaccaro, and I'm glad because that's who I want as well. So
all right, that's Tom Downey. I am Brett Scott. This was this week's Cowboys Report. See ya.